of the Hilal Imtiaz military and the Chief of Army Staff Commendation Card. He has also served in the United Nations mission in Liberia. The general is an MPhil in strategic studies from the National Defense University, and he has remained on the faculty of Pakistan Military Academy, Abbottabad, Command and Staff College, Quetta, and the National Defense University, Islamabad. I would now request Major General Syed Shahab Shahid to please deliver his closing remarks.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Lieutenant General Sarfraz Sattar, Advisor NCA, Brigadier Naeem Salik, ED SVI, Brigadier Kazmi, my friend, Advisor Arms Control. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It's a pleasure to be here. And let me start by appreciating Brigadier Salik and his team in SVI for arranging such a wonderful two-day conference on this very pertinent subject at a very appropriate time. I think the diversity of views that we saw here, along with these breakout sessions, they were helpful for all. And I'm glad to say that the three-member ladies team of the representing India here was much more competent than the ladies team which actually represented India during Operation Sindoor. So what I will do here is I will give you my overview of the global dynamics. Then we'll talk a little about Modi's new normal as he spelled out the three major strands of Modi's new normal. I'll give you my version of the new normal after the Operation Marka-e-Haq. And then in the end, certain lessons that I believe that India and the West should learn from this recent skirmish that we had. So the international security landscape is under tremendous stress. Strategic stability is being negatively affected both at the global and regional levels. Great power contestation has intensified with conflicts in Asia Pacific, Europe, and Middle East, painting a troublesome picture. Populist and ultra-nationalist leadership are fueling unilateralism, and states are increasingly using force with growing impunity. Global governance is eroding as multilateral institutions are sidelined, forcing nations to align with one bloc or another. We are witnessing the collapse of the arms control regimes. The New START treaty may not survive beyond 2026. Defense spending has surged worldwide, crossing 2.7 trillion US dollars in 2024, with over 100 countries raising their defense budgets. India, the world's second largest arms importer after Ukraine, has nearly doubled its defense budget in a decade, and now it is 9 times that of Pakistan. Emerging disruptive technologies, especially artificial intelligence, add dangerous dimensions to nuclear, chemical, and biological threats. Ladies and gentlemen, nuclear weapons are gaining renewed strategic importance in the global landscape. All nuclear states are modernizing their arsenals. United States is modernizing or replacing nearly every component of its strategic nuclear forces by spending $1.7 trillion in 3 decades. United Kingdom, which only relied upon sea-based deterrent, is planning to reintroduce air-operated nuclear capability through purchase of F-35A aircraft. It plans to develop new improved nuclear-powered attack submarines and replace parts of its nuclear warheads. France plans to extend its nuclear umbrella to its European partners. Russia has lowered its nuclear threshold, while China expands its nuclear triad. United States, Russia, and China have all recently upgraded their nuclear weapon testing sites. India continues to modernize through MIRVs, hypersonic missiles, and SSBNs. Alarmingly, debates on acquiring nuclear weapons have surfaced in Germany, Poland, Finland, South Korea, Turkey, and even Japan. Ukraine, which gave up its nuclear weapons for financial gains, is regretting its decision and also paying the price. This vindicates Pakistan's strategic choice and reinforces that nuclear weapons remain a non negotiable insurance policy. Denial of technology and discriminatory sanctions are being used as tools of power politics. The global non proliferation regime is inherently biased, protecting the privileges of the P5 while ignoring their disarmament obligations. NATO countries, Australia, South Korea, and Japan are ardent supporters of non-proliferation treaty but have refused to be signatory to treaty on prohibition of nuclear weapons as it would deny them the protection of the nuclear umbrella. Selective waivers such as India's energy exemption is fueling regional imbalance. Meanwhile, Pakistan faces sanctions on over 160 entities, even as India enjoys unprecedented support in its missile and space programs, which is a threat to global peace and security. We face a polarized world, the demise of arms control, renewed nuclear competition, and discriminatory technology regimes. These trends demand careful navigation, strategic reliance, and an unshakable commitment to safeguarding our national interests. Ladies and gentlemen, the strategic stability in South Asia remains hostage to India's strategic thought and its hegemonic ambitions. Its growing ties with the West and its label as a so called net security provider have fueled ultra nationalist delusions of grandeur. Aspiring for global power, India indulges in massive arms acquisitions. It fosters a false sense of superiority, rejects de escalation, and pursues destabilizing doctrines under the nuclear overhang. It is Pakistan's full spectrum deterrence that has compelled India to scale down its aggressive war doctrines. From Sundarji's doctrine of Pakistan's dissection to the dynamic response strategy, which calls for limited subthreshold punitive actions. This climb down in the Indian military doctrines is in itself a success for Pakistan. At home, India's Hindutva ideology has fueled radicalization, hate, and persecution of minorities. We are witnessing the saffronization of the Indian military, which is having an impact on its policies as well as military professionalism. The Dover Doctrine promotes terrorism as a state policy, targeting dissidents abroad, supporting militancy in Pakistan, conducting false flag operations, and institutionalizing extremism. The post Pahalgam skirmish imposed on us by India epitomizes its hegemonic mindset. While India seeks to impose a so called new normal, the reality reflects its recklessness and dangerous pursuit of regional dominance. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now examine what Modi claims is the new normal versus what is actually the new normal. And there are three strands of Modi's professed new normal. The first is that any terrorist attack on Indian soil will be met with assured and proportionate response. There are 36 separatist movements spanning across 14 states in India. Modi has imposed upon himself the compulsion to militarily respond to any of the so called terrorist attack in India, by any member of these 36 separatist movements, thus giving a formal role to non state actors in South Asian security dynamics. Nothing could be more irresponsible. The second strand is that India would no longer be deterred by nuclear blackmail in its resolve to strike terrorist sanctuaries across the border. There have also been irresponsible statements about calling Pakistan's nuclear bluff. Ladies and gentlemen, nuclear blackmail is a threat of a state or non state actor using nuclear weapons to force the behavior of a nation. It is coercive, not defensive. It is about forcing a change in behavior, not just deterring attack. Full spectrum deterrence is meant to prevent Indian military offensive by threatening a calibrated nuclear response. The logic is defensive and hence cannot be termed as a nuclear blackmail. Moreover, there is no compellence between two nuclear weapon states. Indian leaders and officials consistently gave statements about Indians' actions as measured, non escalatory, proportionate, and responsible. This was because Indian leadership is aware of Pakistan's strategic capability is no bluff. This restraint demonstrated by India was essentially a consequence of their belief in the credibility of Pakistan's full spectrum deterrence. And the last strand is that India will not differentiate between terrorists and the governments that harbor them. India has been exposed as a state sponsoring terrorism inland and abroad. In addition to a number of false flag operations in India, the murder of Sikh separatist leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar by Indian agents in Canada in 2026, charging of an Indian intelligence officer Vikash Yadav in connection with the foiled plot to assassinate another Sikh separatist in the United States, and confession by Commander Kulbhushan Yadav, an Indian serving Navy officer arrested in Pakistan in 2016, who admitted to collaborating with Baloch separatists and conducting covert operations to fuel bloodshed and anarchy in Balochistan and other regions of Pakistan, are just a few examples of India as a state sponsoring global terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, the actual new normal is that Markai Haq has sent a clear message of resilience. Pakistan will not allow its sovereignty to be violated, and any attack will be responded to with quid pro quo plus. Pakistan's full spectrum deterrence has strengthened, forcing India to subdue its aggressive military doctrines and exercising restraint despite superiority in conventional forces and military spendings. Pakistan's military victory has undermined India's reputation as a military power and shattered its ambition of regional dominance, altering the region's power dynamics and rehyphenating Pakistan with India. India could neither garner international support to criticize Pakistan nor muster international support for its aggression, even from its allies. Kashmir has re emerged as a nuclear flashpoint which the world recognizes must be resolved. And finally, Pakistan has emerged as a more disciplined, restrained, responsible, and resolute actor in this conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, the enduring threat to the long term peace and stability in the region emanates from the Kashmir dispute that has remained unsolved since 1947. It lies at the heart of every crisis between Pakistan and India. I will enumerate 6 lessons that India and the West should take from this recent skirmish. First, India needs to reconsider its strategic thoughts and policies. It must learn to live with its neighbor in peace as its aspiration for regional hegemony is not possible. Second, India is an unreliable partner to the West and is incapable of being a net security provider. Third, India must address rising extremism within its masses and put a stop to its state sponsorship of terrorism, both inland and abroad. Fourth, efficacy of Pakistan's full spectrum deterrence posture remained intact, which is aimed at offsetting India's conventional advantage at every level of conflict. India cannot achieve its aims through military adventurism. Fifth, Pakistan's resilience is unlimited, but its strategic restraint is not. And finally, enduring peace in South Asia is not possible without the resolution of the Kashmir dispute. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, the international security landscape is under tremendous stress. The ongoing conflicts in different parts of the world, as well as the erosion of various norms of restraint, are fueling instability. Intensifying strategic rivalries is leading to militarization of alliances, increased military spending, and modernization of strategic arsenals, which reduce prospects for global arms control. India is a revisionist state, an irresponsible nuclear actor bent upon upending strategic stability in South Asia. The next conflict is coming, and it will be more intense. We need to accelerate organizational changes to be prepared for the changing character of war. The new normal is that Pakistan will not accept Indian hegemony in the region and will give a befitting response to any Indian aggression with QPQ+. I thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your profound and thought provoking remarks, which have added great value to the conclusion of this dialogue. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to call on stage the Executive Director of the SVI, Dr. Naeem Salik, for his vote of thanks. Sir.
General Sarfraz, General Shahab, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to be giving the closing remarks at the end of this two-day conference. I think our effort was not in vain, and whatever we have gained over these 2 days in terms of learning and in terms of discussing a vast array of subjects of extremely important uh, to our national security and our interest. India and Pakistan have had a checkered history interspersed with three wars, many border skirmishes, and numerous crises. But the pattern of conflict is now changing. We have just had the first non contact war in the South Asian region, and probably that is going to be the pattern in the future as well. The traditional thinking of some incident happening somewhere, triggering a crisis, resulting into limited conventional engagement, which then could expand into a larger conventional war. And at some stage in that conventional war, the situation could escalate into a nuclear exchange between the two countries. But we have witnessed recently a very different pattern to this, in which many steps of the escalation ladder have already been crossed. So we have gone at a much higher level, and the next conflict will start either from this level or maybe slightly higher than this. I was just looking at yesterday a South Asian escalation ladder. prepared by Rodney Jones in 2011 for Defense Threat Reduction Agency. And I was amazed to see that according to that ladder, Indian ladder had 22 rungs. And in this last conflict, India jumped from rung 1 to 15. And beyond that, they are all nuclear runs. So you can well imagine where we have reached in terms of the escalation of the conflict between the two nuclear armed states. And we are in a very dangerous red zone now. Secondly, at the end of this conflict, the Indian Prime Minister said that this is not a ceasefire, this is a pause, which means that the region will remain perpetually on its toes, waiting for the next crisis to start. So we cannot then afford to lower our guards. We have to remain prepared for the next aggression from uh, our enemy across the border. And that's not a very good situation to be, because you cannot live under perpetual tension for all times to come. It has not only impact on the human psychology, but also it impacts economy and other issues. So but we obviously we are forced into a situation where we have to uh, remain on guard and maintain this high level of alert. Indian Prime Minister also said that any act of terrorism in India would be considered as act of war. So he has actually got himself into a commitment trap from which he will find very difficult to get out. And that means that there will be these very quick cycles of conflict repeating themselves. Any incident declared as act of war, and if they have to react, it will be, I think, extremely dangerous, not only for Pakistan, but for India as well. Then the holding in abeyance of the Indus Water Treaty is again a very serious development. And if India goes on to follow its declarations, and as Pakistan has said that any stoppage of waters uh, which are Pakistan's right will be considered as an act of war. So both sides have uh, clearly laid down the lines, and we are in a very dangerous situation from that point of view. So something has to be done to get out of this commitment trap. Over these 2 days, we have heard very different independent views, and in fact the very rich presentations, and we stand much better educated than we were 2 days ago. And I would like to appreciate the efforts of SVI team. I think everybody contributed in whatever task or capacity they were working for. And so the success of the conference is attributed to their efforts. And I am sure they will maintain these standards and try to improve upon these in the future. And not to underwrite the contribution of the participants, because without the participants this conference would not have succeeded. And not only that, the participants were there with their presence, they found time and spent time here. They also contributed very actively in terms of asking questions and also contributing into the discussions of the breakout sessions. I'm also grateful to General Sarfraz Sattar because he uh, found time out of his commitments yesterday also and spent time with us. And again today, and also General Shahab, who came yesterday as well as today, some other friends also. So I think this has encouraged us and also uh, added to the value of this conference. And in the end, once again, I would like to thank all the guests, worthy guests who have, and this particularly the speakers who made presentations, and the participants of the breakout groups, the moderators, and everybody. And I would thank you all very profoundly, and hope that we'll continue to interact in future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now request Lieutenant General Sarfraz Sattar, Major General Syed Shahab Shahid, moderators and speakers of the conference, and the entire SVI team to please join us on stage for a group photograph. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the SVI, I thank you all for your time, insights, and continued support. We hope the discussions here will be meaningful to the pursuit of stability, peace, and strategic balance in South Asia. With that, we officially bring the SVI National Conference to a close. We wish you safe travels and look forward to welcoming you again at future SVI events. Before we let you go, we have two small requests. Please do follow SVI on all social platforms, and also the QR code that was given for the feedback performer, please make sure to fill it. And before you leave, we would also like you to join us for tea, which is being served at the back of the hall. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and assalamu alaikum.